everyone. Welcome to this lovely webinar that we've been looking forward to, Mastering the Art of Book Sales, and is powered by Jollivy. So what do we do in Jollivy? Jollivy is, we're about empowering creativity. That's at the core of what we do. And we serve as an helpmate to people to help who wants to self-publish by assisting them on their journey to writing, launching, and selling their books. Because why spend so much time? I think I heard this first from Mr. Dami. He said that the highest form of literacy is the ability to write. And why spend so much time doing that much work and nobody gets to hear about it, or just a few people get to be part of the beautiful thing or the beautiful gifts that you are giving the world. And that's what we are here to do at Jollivy. We are here to help you write, to launch, sell. We're here to just help you through that journey. And then if you're a creative, you're a writer and editor, so anybody in the creative space, we're just like a marketplace, helping you to connect with people that want to share their stories with the world, or that has something to say to the world. That's basically what we are about. And we realize that sales is extremely important. I mean, I'm writing a book and I'm like, all this work that is going to this book, I must sell this book. If I'm not even going to like make millions on it, at least the time that I've spent and the money that I would spend on it, I should get it back. So we saw it fit to have this conversation today and to help us in putting it into perspective and to see how you can, that's like the peripheral, but the in-depth way to really sell and to make the best of the selling process. We have Damilola Obidairo. He has leveraged 12 years of expertise to guide both individuals and organizations towards substantial growth through the formation of transformative framework and strategies. Throughout his career, he has collaborated with prestigious development agencies, including the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the United States African Development Fund, that's USADF, German Development Agency, that's GIZ, and numerous others. His contribution has been instrumental in driving impactful projects and initiatives. Damilola actively serves on several boards with a significant focus on the edtech sector. So we are home because writing is educating the mind and educating. His paramount passion lies in empowering individuals to realize their aspiration and achieve their goals. And I must say that Mr. Dami is a fantastic person to work with, and he is a mind, if I must say. He's an intelligent person, and we are looking forward to being blown away by this conversation. So over to you, Mr. Dami.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And good afternoon to everyone listening today. It promises to be a simple conversation. And I think that I use the word simple very carefully, because the simplest things are sometimes the best things that we can, enjoy. I'm going to be speaking about how we can use the tool business model canvas to think about how we write our books and how we publish and how we sell and run our book publishing as a business. So this conversation is strictly for people who are thinking about writing their book as a business, not as a hobby. So if you want to write a book as a hobby, it's not that you really want to make money off it, but you just want to write something and put it out there. If people buy it or not, it doesn't matter. You just want to say something. If you're writing something out of passion, You're not really interested in how the market accepts what it is that you're writing. You're okay, like we say in Nigeria, you're fine. But you just want to write something and then put it behind your name. Maybe this is not for you. But if you are someone that wants to write and you want to ensure that, okay, what I am writing sells and then brings some rewards, brings some profit, some revenue, some dividends back to me, you want to think about the book writing process as a business. And then the tool we're proposing that you use to do that today is one of the simplest tools that we have in business today, and which is the business model canvas. This business model canvas is as distinct from a business plan because, first and foremost, it is simple. It's just a one-pager that is concentrated with the strategy and the thinking behind your business. And as such, it allows you to see the entire story, the entire picture, imagine it just by looking at a page, compared to having to read multiple pages trying to understand your business strategy from a documented business plan. So let's dig right into it. What is the fundamentals of a business model canvas? Why should we have a business model canvas in the very first place? It's a strategic tool, and it's very easy because it is what you use to then document, like I mentioned earlier, the idea or the concept before you go into drafting it out. There are a number of things that you will see once we start the business model canvas. You will see that there are things that are external, there are things that are internal, there are things that have to do with money, that is the foundation of the entire business. Recall that I started this conversation by saying that this will be most interesting for anybody who wants to think about the book writing process as a business. And what's a business? A business is not a hobby. A business is not something that you do out of passion. Like a business is something that you have some input that comes in, and then there are inputs that go out. And most of the time, the input that goes out outweigh what comes in for that business to remain sustainable. And so let's go on. So when do you need to use this tool? At what point in time in the lifetime of your book writing journey do you have to start using the business model canvas? And the answer to that is simple. From the get-go. From the moment you have the idea that I want to write a book, it'll be good to then simply lay out that concept of the book you want to write using a business model canvas, as we will show today. Why do you want to do this? Because it allows you to, first and foremost, like I love to say, that writing a business plan, the most important reason why you should write a business plan is because of the process, not because of the plan itself. The process of writing the business plan helps you to clarify your mind. Writing it down helps you see things that hitherto you would not have considered. So the real why, and the big why for me, is because it allows you to clarify your own mind for you. And then there are other big reasons, is that you also are able to picture your idea from one page. You're able to make connections and connect dots, based on other thoughts that come to your mind while you write. It also allows you to take decisions for customers, especially when you want to tweak the business. You want something, you want a template that you can hold to, and then make the adjustments on paper before making the adjustments in real life. You also want to use it to pass the communication to your partners. If you're going to have people you're going to be employing to push your books, to support you in pushing your books and the likes, even in the writing process, it will be good to share this with them. It allows for simple communication. How? That's what we're going into today. I won't draw much into explaining how, because I'm going to show you today how that is going to happen. And with whom should you write it? If you're working alone, that's fine. If you're in a team, it's okay. and regardless of your circumstances, you are good to go with the business plan, with the business model canvas. So let's get going. Very straight to the point. Now, as I explain this, the principles of the business model canvas is the same for every type of business. The fundamental principles of this tool is the same. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to use an author. I'm going to assume a fictitious author writing a book, and I'm going to use that to explain how to develop this business model canvas. Now, the very first segment, the business model canvas has nine blocks altogether, and the best way to then fill it up is to use to use a particular pattern from start to finish. The first place to start is with the customer. The customer is the most important piece of the puzzle. So you want to start with your customer segment, which is the column on your uppermost right. Once you're looking at the business model canvas, as you can see, it's a page, 9 blocks, customer segment, customer relationships, channels, value proposition. I'm reading from the right: key activities, key resources, key partners, going down cost structure, and then the revenue stream. So I'm going to explain each of them and then how it applies to you as a prospective author or an experienced author, as the case may be. Now, first, starting with the customer segment, it's, are you writing this book for? This piece of intellectual material, which is the product that you're about to create, who needs it? And it's a good place to then start is to segregate that, using different demographics, things like age. Is it for children? Is it for juvenile teenagers? Is it for adults? Is it for retirees? Who are you writing this for? You want to define it under this customer segment. If you have multiple customer segments, meaning it's not just one segment of people that use it, you want to list it down. It's also then good if you are able to design what we call the customer persona, which is like the crown jewel within the ideal segment of the kind of the potential customers of your product, of this intellectual property that you are creating is meant for. So among that pool, what stands out the most? What's the most recurring characteristics, and define that into a definite customer model. A very good example is for me to say, I'm writing a book for kids. I'm writing a book for kids in their late primary school that are able to read basic, simple English and understand it. So already that gives me my customer segment. I can say I'm writing for children aged 6 to 10. And I can add other things. Okay, they are based in Nigeria. I want children in Nigeria, or if it's global, or if it's for children in Africa. Context is very critical. Who are you writing for? Their location, their interest, their habits. I'm writing for children who are scientifically oriented, who has a very creative mind, who are creatively oriented. Define the customer segment as much and as detailed as you can. And that ends the first step. Very simple. The next step you want to then do is to jump over to the middle of the entire business model canvas, and that's the value proposition, right? The value proposition is what exactly is your intellectual property going to do for this customer segment that you have defined. What is the value? What's the another way you can say it is, what's the benefit? What's the pain that will be relieved? It's an intellectual property, so what's the ignorance? What's the enlightenment that's going to cause? So going back to my example of writing a book for children between 6 to 10, I would say, I just want to entertain children. I want to get them off screen. I want to get them off Netflix and YouTube, off Cocomelon and Nickelodeon. I want to get them to read a book. So I want to write something entertainment. So my value then becomes that I want to provide wholesome childhood entertainment through the pages of a book. That could be a value proposition. So the value is providing entertainment. If I'm enlightening young children about, say, sexual, what's it called, education, maybe sex education, for instance, I want to be able to provide sex education in a fun-filled way, and that is appropriate for their age, that's children appropriate, something like that, to the same customer segment. But the interesting thing about value proposition is that it's the core of the entire, and as you can see, it's right there at the center. It's what holds every piece of your business model canvas together. Even though the customer segment is the apple of your eyes, that's who the value proposition is meant for. But if you get it wrong at the value proposition, it's then easy to get it wrong throughout the entire business model canvas. So once you define the business model canvas, then you can go to the next step, which is then to think about the channels. You see it at the bottom. And the channels really is to say, how are you going to get the book, this value, this entertainment that you have created? Let's stick to the entertainment example. Entertainment for young children between the ages of 6 and 10. How am I going to get this entertainment to the customer segment, which is children? What are the channels that I'm going to use to get it across to them? Am I going to get it across to them at children's church? Am I going to get it across to them through different schools? Am I going to get it across to them through children parks? Different parks and arcades where children go to at the mall and at different shopping centers. Am I going to get it to them at children events? Am I going to get it across to them at children websites? Where the beautiful thing about this is once you understand your customer segment, you understand the value. The next best thing to think about is where can I find clusters? Where can I find groups, large chunks, the largest chunks of this my customer segment? Where do young children usually come together? You will see that most of my examples are not far-fetched. If you have better channels for that customer segment that is fitting for that idea, right? Because there are some ideas that cannot fit in some channels. There's some value proposition, that cannot fit into some channels. So you flow them through that channels to your customer segment. And then the next thing you want to talk about is the relationship. Now, the channel is one thing. The interaction, which makes for the customer relationship, is a completely different thing. Am I going to reach out in that channel? So if I'm going through schools, am I going to get access to talk to them? I'm talking to them through agents, the teachers. In church as well, is it through agents? Is it the teachers? Or am I going to have a sales person, or like at the mall, am I going to be able to meet them in person? Am I going to be able to actually still use the phone? Maybe at school, I can get their parents to call in and then I can engage them. No. How am I going to communicate? How am I going to interact with the customers? Now, at this point in time, it's good to differentiate between who the customer is from who the consumer is. At this point in time, the customer is most critical. While the consumer, who is the final person that's going to use the product, is very influential to the customer. But the focus is on the customer who's going to pay the money. So if you're thinking that way, you see that, oh, you then want to tweak. So if I go to school, are the teachers going to help me reach out to the parents? So how are they going to reach out to the parents? Can I get a phone contact of the parent? Because apparently for children, that customer segment, 6 to 10, it's wrong, because those are consumers. They can't take buying decisions. So I'm just correcting myself right here, right now, just thinking about this. And this is what the business model canvas does for you. All right, so your customers are the parents or the guardians of children between 6 or 10. They cannot be customers because they're consumers. So how do I then get across to the customers? which are the parents? Can I meet these parents at the mall? Are there places where parents that have children aged 6 to 10, where they gather? If your circumstance is different and you believe that children aged 6 to 10 can actually make buying decisions, then they become your customers. All right, so, and that is the next step, the customer relationship. How do you interact? How do you get them? Is it through agents? Is it through your salesperson? So that means in person, you can reach out to them through your own salespeople. Is it over the phone? Is it over email? Is it over social media, DMs? How do you get across them? Yes, sir. And so the next thing we're moving to is now the internal part. We've talked about the external part of things and the value proposition. Now we're going to the internal part of things, and we start with the key activities. Now we know the value. We want to deliver educational content as an intellectual product to our consumers, which is children between age 6 to 10, to the customers who are actually the parents of those children. So the customers segments are parents to children aged 6 to 10. Now, what are the key activities I must undertake in order to get this product across to them? First and foremost, I need to make the product. Those are examples. You're just going to have to list the activities that you're going to do that will enable you achieve, drive that value proposition through the customer segments that you have outlined and you have listed. And of course, this has to start with the creation of the property, the product in the first place. So we're going to write a book. We're going to print the book. We're going to publish the book. We're going to, of course, before you print and publish, we're going to, all the activities, we're going to vet. There's another word for vet. We're going to edit. We're going to have editors edit the book. We're going to have quality assurance we will check to ensure that it's fit. Then we're going to print. We're going to publish. We're then going to begin sales and distribution. You may also want to add that, we're also going to get feedback. If there's an activity session in your book, we're going to, collate feedback from the activity sessions. If there's a special promo you're going to run, you want to state it. If there are other activities that this book and conversation that the book is going to generate, you want to list those activities down. If there are meetings that you are going to have to set up to push this book out, you want to list them in the key activities as well. We go to the next box, which is the key resources. Now, in order to achieve the activities that you have listed, what are the things that you need? In order to write the book, you need a quiet space, maybe. If you do not have writer's block, you need to write the book. So what do you need to write the book? You need a computer. If you need a pen and a biro or a typewriter, whichever the case might be. You need access to publishers, access to editors, access to quality control folks. Okay, you can list them. You can list Jolly, for instance, as one of your key resources, writing your books. But you want to itemize all the things that you need to carry out the items, the activities that you've listed. After which you go to the next column, and we're almost done with this description. You list your key partners. Who are the guys? All right, in key resources, you don't list your partners like Jollibee there. I apologize for that. You list them in. If you're going to get some of these resources from your partners, for instance, you are going to list them in your key partners. There are external third-party people who are not part of your company, who are not part of the guys who do the key activities with you, and who have internally the key resources that you need. So there are guys that hold some key activities that will not be done by your team, and who hold some key resources that will not be internally provided by your team, but are required for you to deliver the value proposition that you have stated to your customer segment. Next is your cost structure. Of course, I haven't listed the activities and the key resources. Your resources needs to then be monetized. how much will it take to have those resources? Sometimes even your activities can be monetized because activities themselves may cost manpower to be able to carry out and not necessarily use up any resource. But everything that is required, as you can see, that is on your left, from the key partners, the things you have to pay your key partners, the things you have to pay for the key activities to happen, the things you have to pay to be able to acquire the key resources that you have internally to drive this product. You then put it in your cost structure. And so what do I mean? For example, in order to partner with Jollibee, this is going to cost me a subscription fee. Listed the subscription with Jollibee, you put it there. Key activities, writing, I'm going to pay myself this amount. For this amount of hours, I'm going to be spending writing. If you don't get it, even if you don't get the cash almost immediately, you can then list it. For the resources that I need, I need access to internet to do some research work. I need some team members to do some research or get some data for me that I'm putting in the book. I need people this is an education focused book whose the consumer is 6 to 10. So I need to be very, creative. So I'm going to do some artwork. I'm going to pay guys are going to do artworks into the book. I'm going to pay illustrators. You list all of that. Of course, you've put illustrating your key activities. You've put your illustrators as one of your key resources. Your cost structure, it reflects that's the cost of illustrating, the cost of printing, the cost of publishing, the cost of marketing, the cost of running the different events. If you have listed events in your activities, road shows in your activities, you put that in your cost structure. And then the next, last, and not the least item to put in your business model canvas is then your revenue streams. How are you going to make money from your... Now, because we're talking about book writing, what comes to mind readily is, yes, of course, from sales of my book. But of course, one thing that the business model canvas then helps us to do is to look at some of your activities. If you say you're running events, some of these events, are you going to be paid for some of these events? Because of by virtue of you writing a book, are you going to get speaking events that you are going to have to get paid for? Are you, what are the other opportunities that allows you to earn apart from the direct sales that you have from your books? Is your book going to open up doors for you to be able to teach a subject matter and earn from it? Are you going to then also create, consumables, kits, toys, sales of jerseys, t-shirts, and the other things that can come. And that's the beauty of the business model canvas, because it then allows you to think broadly and widely and allows you to see how you can then, on a page, look at your revenue stream. And that's how we're done. Voila. And so let's look at some examples. Let's look at an online fashion intentionally, 2 examples out of the book writing process. For an online fashion store, or let me just move straight to a more complex example. Okay, I don't have that here. Let's use this advanced example. That's Netflix that I have already populated here. The customer segment is very simple. Netflix is mass market consumers, everybody, children, adults, grandma, grandpa, boy, girl, man. That's who Netflix is out for. Our next thing that we look at is the value. What value is Netflix bringing to the market? It's bringing on-demand video everywhere. It's not just you have the internet. A huge selection to choose from. That makes it difficult to choose your movie sometimes, if you understand what I mean. Original content, not pirated. And the next thing you want to look at is, so what are the channels through which this on-demand anywhere video, this huge selection opportunity, this original content is going to move to the mass market. So it's going to go through websites, it's going to go through app stores, Google Play Store, iOS, it's going to go through affiliate partners, it's going to go through showroom and word of mouth. That is how this mass market is going to get access to this value proposition. And how is the business Netflix going to interact with the mass market? through an automated self-service. So there's a phone number on the website, you call it, and then a response to you. If you send an email to the email provided, you get a response. That is how the business intends to relate with this customer segment while delivering on the listed customer, the value proposition. Next thing we go through is the key activities. What's going to happen? Netflix is going to continually look for content, procure content, buy content, make content that to put on the platform. And it's going to continually make the platform better by optimizing the platform. Those are the activities that keep going on every day at Netflix. What are the resources that is required? It's showrunner selection, it's technology, rating algorithm technology, licensing agreements in different countries. That's a legal resource. Bandwidth and net neutrality. That's technology as well. So that the key resources that Netflix will need to be able to deliver the value proposition to the customer set. Now, what are the key partners in making this happen? All the ISP providers that provide internet partners, movie and TV stage studios that produce some of these movies are also partners. They are third party, as you will notice, that are not necessarily internal with Netflix. So what's the cost structure? Of course, the platform. Ensuring that the platform is online costs money. What's another cost structure? It's content creation. The need to create content constantly on the platform costs money. And then that is how money is being expended. There's also economics of scale. And that means purchasing a whole lot of movies in bulk. So looking for how you can get, apart from creating movies yourself, buying up movies in bulk from studios and then uploading it. So it costs money to do it. It costs money to create, it costs money to buy and have scale quickly by buying out other movies from other TV studios and movie studios. And then the final and most interesting is how will Netflix make money? The only singular stream of income from Netflix is a subscription. And that's how it makes money. And that's a classic example of your business model canvas. And this is your template. This is kind of a number of templates I've found online that you can keep, but the boxes remain the same. Pick up on any template and begin to iterate the idea and the concept that you have for your book. I'll be happy to take questions as I've come to the end of my presentation this afternoon. Dear host, Titila Obidairo, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Dami, for such an interesting conversation. My mind was just playing on different ways in which my book can be positioned and all of that. But I have a couple of questions. I think number one is, when is it ideal to fill your business model Canva for your book? Should it be done at the beginning, at the middle of the writing process, or at the end? That's question number one. Do you want to answer it as okay?
I would like to take it so that I don't fill my random access memory. That's my RAM. So the best time to write it is now. If you are at the beginning of your book writing process right now, if you're already at the middle and you didn't start at the beginning, the best time is now. If you've already finished writing your book and you're already in the sales process, now, that's the best time to write. If you write at the beginning, you have the opportunity to iterate and keep changing. So note that once you write your business model canvas, it does not mean that that is the end. What it just means is that you have a document you can come back to and iterate, make changes on the go, but it's just something to then guide you and anchor you to the shore so you don't get tossed to and fro by the winds of creativity.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's like whatever stage you are, you can write it and it would help give clarity. Thank you for that. Now, the other question is about the customer segment and the channel. Let's say that the book that is being written is for pregnant women. Now, yes, the book is supposed to help pregnant women understand their journey And yes, that's the focus. But then they can buy it because they are pregnant. Their husband can buy it for them. Their friends can buy it for them, and all of that. So where does that fit in the channels, and where does that fit in the relationship? Because if the customer is the person that pays the money, we have different. As much as we know that this is specifically for women that are going through the pregnancy was in a journey, but there are different people in their lives who can buy it. So how is that reflected in the channels and in the customer relationship?
The very first thing you need to sort out is the customer segment. If you are having doubts as to whether some set of people fit into your customer segment or not, it's going to give you an issue when you're determining the channels and the customer relationship. So what do I mean? You need to settle. Are your customers the pregnant women or their relationships? Are their relationships significant enough to buy? Are the number of husbands and friends significant enough to fall under your customer segment? When you're doing your customer segmentation, you are not going for outliers. And when you're doing estimates of this kind, you do not go for outliers. And what do I mean? That in a certain situation somewhere, an husband bought a book for the wife does not make it a trend. Right? So you want to check out for trends. Do husbands normally buy books for their pregnant wives? Is it a trend? Now, if it is a trend, then yes. Oh, during baby shower, friends buy books for their about to deliver female friends. You know, other female friends buy books where they go to the baby, or is it what's it called, gender reveal or whatever. You know, so you then want to use established trends and patterns that you have observed in your market research to determine the exact customer segment you're targeting. If you are having doubts as regards, so we'll put women and maybe their husbands and maybe it's not going to work. So if you determine that, oh, we're going to put first customer segment, women that are pregnant. Second customer segment, the husbands of women, pregnant women. The third customer segment, the girlfriends of pregnant women. If that is your customer segment, then you can then go to your channels. Your channels then is, where do you find pregnant women? Plenty. Antenatal, that's a channel. General hospital, that's a channel. This Ministry of Health program for pregnant women, that's a channel. Oh, in my church, we have a very large group of pregnant women association. That's a channel. So you just, baby stores. Pregnant women go to baby stores a lot. That's a channel. The next customer segment, husbands of pregnant women. Where do husbands of pregnant women go? Oh, check where hospital bills are being paid. That's a channel. You know, so that's where the creativity comes. Baby stores, husbands go there to buy stuff for their wives. That's a channel. Even for the girlfriends of pregnant women. Where do you find a chunk of girlfriends to pregnant women? You start thinking and you start penning these ideas and clarity starts coming. So once you have the channels, then you now talk about the relationships. How am I going to communicate with them? When I meet them through this channel, how am I going to communicate? Is it in person? Is it via email? Is it by SMS? Is it by social media DM? Is it by sign language? You know, you define how you're going to nourish the relationship between the business and these various business segments. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. That really put things in perspective. The last question I have, so please, if you have questions, just drop it in the chat box. The last question I have is, if you decide that your book is going to be, you want to do 3 types: audiobook, audiobook, physical book, and ebook, how is that reflected in the channels? Because that's like a different, there are different platforms. Is that just reflected in the channels? Or yeah.
What is the value proposition? I think that's a question. If that question is answered properly, then the type of book and the form and the shape with which this value has to be positioned to then reach the customer segment becomes clear. For instance, I want to do something entertainment. What I want to deliver in terms of value is entertainment to kids, as in my example. That value proposition will then determine the form of this intellectual property. It has to be a cartoon. It has to be a color book. It has to be an audio book. It has to be a visual book. It has to be an ebook. It has to be a hard copy book. It's going to be determined by the value of that you actually want to pass to the customer segment. If you're doing a business book, for instance, you want to pass knowledge for CEOs to be able to take decisions, to enlighten CEOs about how to deal with, and how to relate well with their employees. You know that most CEOs, your customer segment is CEOs of medium, small, and large businesses. You know that the characteristics of that demography is that time is of essence. It influences how you then deliver the value. So your value then is, I want to deliver business nuggets and distilled wisdom in a form that is easily accessible to the customer segment, for instance. And then that can inform that's the product. So whether it's in a hard copy, and that's the value, it's all encapsulated in the value. The channel is now how that value now goes to the customer, right? So once you are done with the ebook, how does the ebook get to the customer? Is it through downloading through a website? That is not the channel. The channel is not the product. The value is locked in the product. The shape of the product speaks to the value. The value that you are proposing determines the shape, determines the form, determines the kind of pattern you put it in. The carton that carries the product is a part of the product. It's part of the presentation, it's part of the branding of the product. You take that carton into a bus and deliver. That bus is that channel. So the form is part of the packaging. It's a part of the product. It's part of the value that you're adding to deliver to the customer. So the clarity and the depth of thought that you put into your value proposition is what we then even determine the form, like I mentioned. For the fear of repeating myself, I hope that I answered the question.
Yes. I think that what I got clearly from that is that the value is really the king. To say that what do you want to achieve will now help determine what particular form that you want the book should be, and then the channel is how you get it to the customer. So that's clear. Thank you. So finally, I don't think we have any questions. The final question for me would be that typically when you buy books, I've read quite a number of books in my life, and there's no like quote unquote customer relationship, in the sense that I don't think I've ever spoken with most of the authors that have read their book. So what should be, sometimes I wish I could, so that I could probably ask clarification about some things, or just tell them how life-changing their books were to me. So in the frame of the customer relationship, knowing that it's a book and you probably don't even know who's going to buy it. When I mean who, that's the exact person. What do you advise that the customer relationship should be like?
Yes, so you're very right and you're spot on. And that's because most of the time, most book authors are not necessarily thinking of their book as a business. And they are not
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Most of the time, most book authors are creatives that do not think of their book writing process as a business. And there is no sustainability to the thought, right? Most book authors today that are business savvy know well that to just publish a book and let it go. They create a movement around their books. They create a series around their books. They create a continuous conversation with their fan base. They get their books into, they launch their book launches. They intentionally create opportunity to sign, their books as people purchase their books, right? You get an opportunity to sign, interact, hear a word, hear a feedback, take a note. They drop their emails. Some books even get so interactive that there's some form of like a workbook in between. It gives you a link somewhere where you can click on and you can do a follow-up. So especially books that then have value propositions that are targeted at behavioral changes. I think that one classic book that I can think of is a Christian literature piece, and I think it's the purpose-driven life. Requiring. You will notice that the book has a book. It also has a workbook where there is an interaction. And that is because of the value proposition that Rick Warren, the author of The Purpose-Driven Life, wants to pass. He wants to change the life. That's the value. So the value is what actually then drives, if you want to interact, why you should interact. So I would not advise that on a blanket, if you're writing a book and you want to meet your fans. There are people that write books that are just informational pieces. I want to write about the Constitution of Nigeria. I write it, you read it, you dump it, and you move on with your life. Everybody's fine, you're fine. I've met my value proposition. But there are some books that you also then want to write, and because of your value proposition, you know that there is a need for follow-on engagement with people that then feel your book. There's going to be need for feedback loop. There's going to be need for not just for feedback loop, for also interaction that can then give back to future editions of your book. And then you create that through the customer relationships. And it's also reflected in the key activities that you are carrying out in your book publishing business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dami. Thank you for such a wonderful time. And yes, we are going away with a lot of takeaways. We have work to do, defining whether it's for profit or not for profit, just knowing where you are putting the value you've worked so much on, putting it in the right place such that people can get value and you can have that satisfaction that people have been, for lack of a better word, blessed, or people's life have changed by virtue of reading your book is very important. So thank you very much, Mr. Dami. It's great to have you here. We would share the templates with people, and then if they have some questions, we hope we are free to send you an email as regards that. Thank you very much for joining us. Marvelous, I see you. Thank you very much for joining. I trust that it was a few minutes packed with value for you. So thank you. Thank you for attending. If you are going to be watching, thanks, Marvelous. If you are going to be watching this in later time, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let us know. And yes, at Jollibee, we can hold your hand through the process of filling your business model Canva for your book. We can help you to put those books in the channels that you've decided you want them, and we can just help you through the journey. So till